in the subject of plant biotechnology, that is macropropagation, anthroculture, and pollen culture. So, as we discussed in macropropagation, that is a process in which we can regenerate whole plant from the next plant in the laboratory conditions by using various media through two ways, direct and indirect method. So, what is the exact meaning of macropropagation? So, it is defined as multiplication of genetically identical copies of a cultivator by asexual reproduction is called clonal propagation. It means when we take a single explant from the natural conditions put in the media, from that single explant we can grow large number of identical plants. We can clone thousands of plants from single explant. In nature, this clonal propagation occurs by apomixis. What is apomixis? It is seed development without meiosis and fertilization. Okay, so what is apomixis? It is seed development without meiosis and fertilization. Or vegetative propagation. What is meant by this vegetative propagation? It means regeneration of new plants from vegetative parts. Okay, it means regeneration of new plants from vegetative parts. Okay, then we use different explants in the macro propagation. These different kinds of explant used in macro propagation are, for example, in case of orchid, we used shoot tip. We use auxiliary bud in case of Brassicocatella lelila. We use inflorescence segment in New Stylis. We use lateral bud in Cattleya. We use leaf as explant in Cattleya. We use shoot tip culture for Cymbidium, Dendrobium. We use nodal segment for Dendrobium. We use flower stalk segment from Dendrobium. We use root tips for Vanilla and Neotitia. Means we can use different explant explanter that exercise part of plant which from which we are generating the whole plant life in the tissue culture lab. So these are different explants in different plants which are used in the macro propagation. So normally most of the time we use leaf and nodal segment as the explant. Then we come to that I told you that the stages of macro propagation generally involves 5 stages. Like stage one, or we can say stage zero, that is initial stage. It is called as preparative stage. After preparative stage, what happens? Initiation of culture means explant will grow in size. It will produce callus or it will produce shooting and rooting. Stage two, we will do what? Multiplication of shooting. Stage three, we will do rooting in the shooting. Stage four means complete plant that is there. We will go for the transfer of that complete plant from the laboratory condition to the normal natural condition, from the artificial lab condition to the normal condition. That is called as transplantation. So there are 5 stages: repetitive stage, initiation of culture, multiplication, rooting of shoots, and transplantation. These 5 are the main stages which are occurs in the process of macro propagation. Okay, so what will happen? What are the advantages of macro propagation? Why? What is the need of macro propagation? See, first advantage is that we can produce large number of explants. For example, around 10,000 explants we can produce from initial cutting in vegetative propagation. One can obtain more than 10 lakh plants per year from one initial explant through micro propagation. It means we can cultivate and multiply about thousands of explants through this micro propagation. After that, culture is initialized from small parts of plants, so no need of much space. From 1 meter space in culture room, 20,000 to 1 lakh plants can be produced per year. Third advantage, we can produce plants which are free from any disease and free from any virus. Okay, we can also do the international exchange of plants throughout the country or out of the country. Macropropagation enables to increase the production of plants that normally propagate very slowly, such as narcissus and other bulbous crops. Some crops generally germinate very slowly. So what scientists are doing, they are taking their explant, cultivating in the laboratory condition. So what will happen? As compared to natural condition, in the laboratory condition, they will grow very fast. But reduce the time and cost and labor. Okay, so this can reduce the time, cost, and labor so that it can increase the production of certain plants which grow very slowly. Vegetative propagation of sterile hybrids can be used as parent plants for the seed production. Like certain hybrid variety, for example cabbage, they are sterile initially. But when we use their seed as a tissue culture media, then they can germinate very fast. So their seeds can be used as the parent plant from which we can develop many plants from their seeds. Example is cabbage. They can also use in vitro cultures can also be stored for long time through cryopreservation. Means the plant which we obtain, we can preserve that plant for a longer period of time. Okay, and the cryopreservation means preservation at very low temperature. Okay, it means preservation at very low temperature. That is around minus 195. Last point, breeding cycle can be shortened. Like for a conventional breeder, it will take around 15 to 20 years to develop the variety. But using this plant biotechnology technique, using this macropropagation, we can develop large number of plants within 1 year, irrespective of their climate. That is the main advantage of macropropagation. Okay, that's why we are focusing on this. Then we come about different types of culture which are used in the techniques of macropropagation. Among that, one of them is anther or pollen culture. Anther is the male part, or pollen is the female part. So, the development of numerous pollen plantlets in anther culture of Datura were first reported by two scientists. I told you earlier also, that is Guha and Maheshwari. For that, they received the Padma Shri Award. That was the major breakthrough in the haploid culture. I told you that haploid cultures are mainly produced from the anther pollen culture, mainly from the anther culture. This technique of haploid production through anther culture has been extended to various plant species, including cereals, vegetables, oils, and trees. The anthers may be taken from plants grown in the field or in the pots, but ideally, these plants should be grown under controlled temperature, light, and humidity. Still, often the capacity of haploid plants decline with the age of plant. Okay, basically, what they require proper physical conditions they require, like controlled temperature, light, and humidity. But as the age of plant increases, the rate of production of anther culture decreases. Flower buds at the appropriate developmental stage are collected, they are surface sterilized, and their anthers are excised and they are placed horizontally on the culture medium. Rest process is same. Prepare the media, place the media, put the culture on the media, anthers will grow and they will produce haploids. And the same with the pollen culture. For example, here we report that the anthers of barley gently macerated to obtain a suspension of pollen grains. After removing the debris means unwanted material by centrifugation, the suspension of pollen was grown on sucrose solution and centrifuge at 1200 grams for 5 minutes. What will happen? They will form the solution in two phases, pellet and supernatant. The pellet is the solid phase, the supernatant is the liquid phase. So the salt pellet, which we obtain as a solid phase, it contains androgenic regulated pollen grains. Okay, so this pollen culture is not only more efficient, but it is also more convenient than anther culture. So we can easily separate the pollen from the anther by first making the solution of 30% sucrose and then after making the centrifugation at 100 gram for 5 minutes. So after centrifugation, pollens can be easily separate from the anthers. What is the main challenge? The main challenge is that this process is little bit tedious. The tedious process for the dissection of anthers is avoided. Instead, the entire buds with a suitable size range are crushed and the pollen grains coming out from the embryo are separated by the centrifugation method. Because we cannot take single embryo and dissect them. What we can do, we can directly go for the tedious process of dissection of anthers and the entire bud with a suitable size can be crushed and the embryonic grains are be separated by gradient centrifugation. Okay, then what will happen? See, this diagram is there. That is the flower. From flowers, we have taken the anthers. These anthers are cultured into the nutrient medium, that is MS medium. They will form callus, without callus or without with callus. Without callus, from callus they make plantlet. The plantlet is haploid. Similarly, without callus, they will form embroid, and from this embroid, there is a formation. There is a formation of this complete plantlet. It is a diagrammatic representation of anther culture. Process is same only. Just what is the difference? We have to desiccate the anthers very properly from the flowers. Okay, and they will form the haploid plant. So process is very clear, simple. Production of flower. Take the anthers, put the media, add the media. They will form either callus or without the callus, form embroid. They will form haploid plant. Here also haploid plant is there. So this diagram represents the proper pathway of anther culture. Let's see about how exactly in the microscope these anthers look. These are the macrospheres which are separated from the flower, and we have taken the anther. Anther culture is there, callus is there, plantlet is formed in the tissue culture media, and finally from this media, we have transferred the plant in the normal condition. So this plant is the haploid plant, which is made from the anther culture. So after that, we come to ovule culture and embryo culture. Now, what do you mean by the ovule culture? See, culturing of immature ovules is resorted in certain cases where pollination is successful. But sometimes, if there is no pollination, it means ovules are having incompatibility, means they are not able to fertile. For that plants, we have to go for ovule culture, where there is a problem of pollination. So, to overcome the problem of pollination, we have to go for ovule culture. So, the procedure can be successfully achieved if depends on the fertilization. So, what we have to follow? Same process there. We have to isolate the ovules anytime soon after fertilization to almost develop fruits for a variety of difficult interspecific intragenic process involving. Actually, this ovule culture is mainly achieved in the members of family Malvaceae, Fabaceae, Cruciferae, Solanaceae, etc. Or ovules after fertilization have been successfully cultured to obtain mature embryo or mature seeds. Okay. So for a variety of difficult interspecific intragenic process involving members of families Malvaceae, Fabaceae, Cruciferae, Solanaceae, ovules after fertilization have been successfully cultured to obtain mature embryo or mature seeds. That is called as ovule culture. Then comes, for example, ovule culture in orchids. First of all, the scientists were Nemoto and Sagawa. They were first to attempt the ovule culture in orchids. According to them, the seeds could be taken out for culturing only about 55 days after pollination. But when scientists read reports having taken seeds out of the ovaries 7 days after pollination and cultured them to seedling stage, it means that what is the important thing we require? We require that the ovules should be taken out only after the 55 days after the pollination. But some scientists reported that we can easily isolate the ovule after 7 days just after the pollination. So they this ovule culture also have been achieved in some plants like Cypridium, Paphiophidium, whose seeds are especially difficult to germinate. In such cases, the seeds coat is said to contain certain substances which retard or even prevent the process of germination. Okay. Then culturing of ovules before seed coat is developed fully, which will give a higher percentage of germination in such cases. After that, the immature pod is sterilized. From the immature pod, what we do, we can cut, open the ovules, take out the ovule with a sterilized knife. Once the knife is there, differentiate the ovule from the seed, and then put the ovules in the vial, still water. It is shaken. So ultimately, it is a process for the isolation of ovules. Process same. Again, isolate the ovule, put in the media. Again, it will form the callus, and the finally plant will be deployed. Process of anther culture and ovule culture scientifically is same. What is the difference? That anther culture will produce the haploid plant, ovule culture will produce the diploid plant. That is the main difference. After we come to ovule culture, we reach to ovary and embryo culture. The culture of unfertilized ovaries to obtain haploid plants from egg cell or other haploid cells of the embryo sac is called ovary culture. Culture of unfertilized ovaries to obtain haploid plants from egg cell or other haploid cells of the embryo sac is called as ovary culture. Means here the ovaries are unfertilized. And this process is also called as gynogenesis. You know androecium, gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female part of the flower. So we can say that ovary culture is the another name for gynogenesis. It was initially first reported by San Noy. San Noy first reported the gynogenesis in barley. Subsequently, success has been obtained in several plant species like wheat, rice, maize, tobacco, sugar beet. About 0.2 to 6% of the cultured ovaries show gynogenesis, and 1 or 2, rarely up to 8 plantlets originate from each ovary. That means each ovary can give rise to almost about 8 plantlets. Initially, it was discovered first by San. Okay, San discovered first gynogenesis. It is called as ovary culture. Next culture will come called as embryo culture. Embryo means not completely developed plant. In angiosperms, embryo is the, we can say that, miniature sporophyte resulting from the fertilized egg or zygote. Two terms are there: sporophyte and gametophyte. Okay, gametophyte and sporophyte are the embryo stage in the angiosperms. So this sporophyte results from the fertilized egg or zygote. In the seed-bearing plants, embryos are easily accessible as they can be separated with relative ease from the maternal tissues and cultures. Means the plants which are having seed in this embryo can be easily formed in the seeds. They can be easily separated under aseptic conditions. Same, you have to prepare the media, isolate the embryo, culture the embryo. So the culture of embryo has been done by breeders since half century. Okay, so what we discuss about anther culture, ovule culture, ovary culture, embryo culture. Process is same, only minor differences there. Then the first systematic attempt in the embryo culture was done by Henning in 1904, who cultured mature embryos of which plant? Raphanus and another gymnosperm cochlearia. The first time embryo culture was discovered by Henning in 1904 in which plant? In Raphanus and conifers. Subsequently, many workers raised plants by cutting embryos excised from mature seeds. Okay, subsequently, many workers raised plants by cutting embryo excised from mature seeds. Okay, so in the field of embryo culture, further demonstrated that most important practical application of this technique is what? They are used mainly in the hybrid process. So they cross two plants, Linum perenne and Linum rusticum, but obtain hybrid seeds of very light and shriveled nature without any germinability. It means during the hybrid culture of this embryo, the variety of seeds which was obtained was not very good. The seeds were very light, and their germination rate was very poor. Okay, so their germination rate was very poor. Okay, so we can say that uh, this embryo culture sometimes be good, not always successful. It depends upon the plant to plant variety. Now, I told you what are the factors which affect the success of embryo culture. First, genotype. We should know the genotype of the parents. If the parents are fertile, genotype will be fertile. Parents are sterile, nothing can do. Second, it depends on the developmental stage of the embryo. Embryo should be isolated only at the young stage of the plant, not at the old stage. We know that the reproduction can be done only by the young people, not by the old people. Same concept applies here. So the embryo should be isolated at the developmental stage of the plant, means in the initial stage of reproduction. Third thing, it depends on the growth conditions of the mother plant. If mother plant is healthy, obviously embryo will be healthy. Growth conditions are what? Like temperature, pressure, humidity, availability of water. All these are the growth conditions. And finally, composition of the nutrient medium. Means what kind of salts we are adding in the MS medium. Sucrose, inorganic salts, organic salts. Okay. What kind of salts we are adding in the medium. It depends on them also. Right? So these are the conditions which is very, very important. Then what are the practical applications of embryo culture? Practical applications like they are used, I told you, in the monoploid production, haploid production. They overcome the seed dormancy. They're shortening the breeding cycle of plants. As I told you, from micropropagation, we can produce thousands of plants in a short period of time. They can cause the transfer of gene by combining two different embryos of different varieties. By the back crossing, they can produce variation. Okay, so these are the different practical applications of the embryo culture. All things we discuss about today, the embryo culture, oval culture, and agriculture. So, thank you. Today we will discuss about synthetic seed production technology. As you know that synthetic seed is another name for the production of somatic embryos. So today we will discuss how we can produce the synthetic seeds. As the name suggests that synthetic seeds are normally prepared in the laboratory. For them, there are certain protocols and some chemicals which we require during the production of synthetic seeds. So, what is the basic definition of synthetic seeds? How they are defined? Synthetic seeds involves the production of tissue culture which are derived from somatic embryos. But these somatic embryos are protected by certain coatings. So it means that embryo is coated by some chemicals. And that embryo, when it's coated, is generally called as artificial seeds. So we can say that artificial seed is the cocktail of somatic embryo which has been encapsulated by certain chemicals. So though artificial seeds are also called as synthetic seed. However, the synthetic seed should not be confused with the commercial seeds of cultivator, which is called as the advanced generation of an open pollinated population composed of group of inbred cyclones or hybrids. It means for a commercial cultivator, they use this term artificial seeds in another prospect. But for a biotechnologist, this artificial seed is the synonym of synthetic seed, right? So it is different for cultivator, means for breeder, and is different for the biotechnology. So now we will discuss about the various steps how we can produce the artificial seeds in the laboratory. First of all, we have to develop the somatic embryogenesis. As I told you that somatic embryogenesis is initiated by use of plant hormone 2,4-D. Then the embryos should be maturated. When all mature embryos are maturated, you will synchronize and unite all somatic embryos so that there is a fusion of large number of somatic embryos and there is the mass production of somatic embryos. After that, we will standardize the artificial endosperm, means we will coat the synthetic seed or somatic embryos with certain chemicals. So they will form artificial endosperm, which in turn will make what? Artificial seeds. So again, we will do what? mass multiplication of synthetic seeds. Once the plant is generated from the synthetic seed, we will go for its field planting. So this is the flow chart how we can produce the synthetic seeds in the laboratory. First, we have to establish the somatic embryos. We have to wait for the maturation of somatic embryos. We have to go for fusion of somatic embryos. Then further, we proceed for its encapsulation. Through encapsulation, we standardize the artificial endosperm. That's why we call it as artificial seeds. Then we go for its mass production of synthetic seeds. And then finally, once the plant is generated through synthetic seed, we'll go for its transplanting in the field. So that is the whole procedure for the production of synthetic seeds. Now, which are the chemicals which we require for the production of synthetic seeds? So basically, we require two chemicals: sodium alginate and calcium chloride. Now, what is sodium alginate? Sodium alginate is a straight chain hydrophilic colloidal polyuronic acid composed primarily of units of hydrodimenuronic acid, which contains 1,4 linkages. So the major principle involved in the alginate capsulation is that the sodium alginate, what we will do, suppose we have a liquid media. In that liquid media, we will transfer the somatic embryos. In that somatic embryos, we will add sodium alginate drop by drop, followed by addition of calcium chloride. So what will happen after some time? When we add both sodium alginate and calcium chloride, they will form round beaded like structure. Okay, so this round, they will form round beaded like structure around the somatic embryos. So these somatic embryos are encapsulated by sodium alginate and calcium chloride. So what will happen? What is the basic mechanism? Actually, what happened? That I told you that they will form round form beds. Why? Because there is the ion exchange between the sodium that is present in sodium alginate and calcium ion, which is present in calcium chloride solution. So what will happen as a result of exchange of ion? There is the formation of bond, right? So bond will form. It will provide the stability. So the layer will develop around the somatic embryos, which are already there in the liquid medium. So it means finally, I will repeat once again what we have done. We have the liquid media. In that, we will add the somatic embryos, followed by addition of sodium alginate, followed by addition of calcium chloride. So these two chemicals, after forming the ion exchange, they will form beds-like structure on the periphery of somatic embryos. So somatic embryos will be encapsulated by these two chemicals and they will form bed-like structure. So this complete structure in which somatic embryos are encapsulated are called as synthetic seeds. So that is the method how we can produce the very easy method that we can produce the synthetic seed in the laboratory. So now I will tell about artificial endosperm. Sometimes what happens, there is absence of seed coat in somatic embryos. So what I have written that somatic embryos lack seed coat and endosperm that provide protection and nutrition for embryos in developing seeds are called as artificial endosperm. What we have to do to overcome this absence of seed coat or tester, we will add some nutrients, we will add some growth hormones for the encapsulation matrix which is desired, which serves as an artificial endosperm. So it means in a simple way we can say that somatic embryos which are without seed coat, and in that we are providing some nutrition, plant hormones. So what will happen? They will form some gelatin matrix layer around that somatic embryos, which will fulfill the criteria of seed coat. They will not, now there is no deficiency of seed coat, so they are called as artificial endosperm. Then we produced, then we go, we can say discuss about protoplast. As I told you, what is protoplast? Protoplast are plant cell without cell wall and nucleus. So how we can isolate the protoplast from the plant sample? There are certain enzymes which are present like cellulase, hemicellulase, pectinase, and these enzymes have been isolated from certain biological source. Like for example, cellulose has been isolated from Trichoderma viride, hemicellulose has been isolated from Aspergillus niger, pectinase. It contains two enzymes. It has been isolated from Rhizopus species. Okay, so these enzymes are not present in the nature. They have been isolated from certain biological source. Right. Then there are two methods for the isolation of protoplast. One is direct method. One is indirect method. Since direct method is just includes only single method. In that, what we'll do first, we will take the leaf segment from which the protoplast will be isolated. We will incubate these leaf segment for 15 to 18 hours with the enzyme mixture. After that, from this, once the leaf is treated with the enzyme mixture, we will isolate the protoplast. The whole mixture is filtered through fine wire gauge to remove the impurities in the form of leaf debris. Then they are transferred to the screwed cap tubes having the size of 13 into 1000 millimeter. And finally, they are centrifuged at 100 gravity for 1 minute. So in that, what happens? We are involving only we are aspirating protoplast in a single step. How? Take the leaf segment, incubate it, add the enzyme mixture on a single enzyme at particular time, that is 20 to 18 hours, particular temperature, that is 25 hours. So what will happen? We'll allow the mixture to filter through the fine wire gauge. As a result, what will happen? They will remove the leaf debris and the size. Then after that, they will be transferred into the test tube. So what is the size of test tubes? That is 13 into 100 millimeter. And finally, we will go for centrifugation at 100 gravity for 1 minute. So as a result, after centrifugation, we will see two phases of the solution. One is liquid, one is solid. The liquid phase is called as pellet, and sorry, the liquid phase is called as supernatant, and the solid is called as pellet. Now, basically, there are two methods for isolation of protoplast. That is mechanical method, enzymatic method. In the mechanical method, we use certain knife or any device to remove the protoplast. We can see that picture. There is a plant. From that plant, we have collected the leaf. From the leaf, we have made isolating the protoplast using syringe. We have collected the protoplast, transferred to the protoplast in certain medium. We will remove the epidermis, and from the epidermis, we have separated the protoplast. So this method is based basically on mechanical method, in which we are using certain instrument or device. So it is called as isolation of mesophyll protoplast, in which we have peeled off the epidermis. Because we have used a knife in this method, any machine or any technical thing we are using. So this method is called as mechanical method. But nowadays this method is not so preferred because the purity of protoplast is not up to very good. Right? So purity of protoplast is not good. So scientists have they have preferred towards the enzymatic method. So this enzymatic method I told you, these three enzymes we will use. There's two methods, direct method in which we have just isolated the protoplast in a single method. Another method is sequential method. So sequential method, we will follow two different steps for the isolation of the protoplast. Initially, what we will do in the first step, we will take the leaf segments. We treat with the mixture A. That mixture A contains 0.5% macroenzyme, 0.3% potassium dextran sulfate, and 13% mannitol. And the pH is maintained at 5.8. They are then vacuum infiltrated for 5 minutes. After that, they are transferred to the water bath and subjected to slow shaking. In the second step, after 15 minutes, what we will do? We will replace that enzyme, that is earlier enzyme which we used, with a fresh enzyme. We will call it this enzyme B. Again, what we will use? Again, we will go for centrifuge for 1 minute. We will wash 3 times with the 13% mannitol to get the pure sample of isolated cells. Finally, again we will incubate this protoplast with enzyme B. This enzyme B is contains 2% cellulose in a 30% solution of mannitol. Basically, in sequential method, we are using two different enzymes. Enzyme A that contains 0.5% macroenzyme plus potassium dextran sulfate. Enzyme B that contains 2% cellulose. 38% mannitol is both in same case. What we are doing? Treating with enzyme first, then go for centrifuge, then go for incubator, then again treating with enzyme second, again incubation, again centrifuge, again same time. So basically here what we are doing, basically we are centrifuging or we can say that 2 times we are using enzyme and 2 times we go for centrifuge. So this is a two-step method. So it is called a sequential method because we have followed all the steps in the sequence. Like in the first method, we have treated with the enzyme, then go for centrifuge, followed by again treated with the enzyme, again go for centrifuge. So 2 times centrifuge and 2 times enzyme. Finally, after centrifuge second time, again we will get pellet and supernatant. So the pellet we will have the pure protoplast, and the supernatant it is having the some impurities. So we will discard that impurities. So these are the methods for the isolation of protoplast. When I told you mechanical method, in which we use certain device or certain instrument for removing the protoplast. They will isolate it from the plant, remove the peel in the form of epidermis from the mesophyll tissue, and again wash the protoplast. Then we go for enzymatic method. In the enzymatic method, there are two methods. Direct method, which includes single step. That single step is what? In that single step, we will isolate the leaf, incubate the leaves, add the enzyme mixture at 25 degree. Mixture is filtered through the test tube. Go for centrifuge. After centrifuge, we will obtain the protoplast in the form of pellet. Then this step is repeated 3 times, and then pellet is again washed with 20% sucrose. In this, enzyme is one, centrifuge 2 times. In the second step, 2 times enzymes and 2 times centrifuge. So again, after treating with the sucrose, what we will do again, we will treat the protoplast at 20% sucrose and go for centrifugation. That is at a speed of 200 grams for 1 minute. In the earlier case, centrifuge speed was 100 grams. 100 gravity means here we have doubled the speed, but time interval is same. So what will happen? The pure protoplast will come on the upper surface, and the impure things, that is debris, it will be settled down, which will be removed by the pipetting, and it will be burned out. Then I discuss about second method. Here what we are using, same we will take the leaf sample, treat with enzyme A. That enzyme is having 0.5% macroenzyme, 0.3% potassium dextran sulfate, and we will add 13% mannitol. pH will be 5.8, and then again we will go for water bath at 25 degree, and after 15 minutes we will replace the fresh enzyme A, again treat it. Then we will go for centrifuge at 100 gravity for 1 minute and wash with 30% mannitol to get the isolated cell. And then second step, we will take enzyme B, which is what? 2% cellulase. 13% mannitol is same in both the enzymes. Difference is of only 2% cellulase. In the earlier case, it was potassium dextrosulfate. Here it is cellulase. Again, we will go for 90 minutes at 30 degree for incubation. Then again centrifuge for 1 minute. The protoplast will come in the pellet, which is clean as discussed in the previous step. Again, we will remove the debris from the pipetting. We will obtain the pure protoplast. So these are the some methods which are obtained to get the protoplast either by the direct method or by the sequential method. Then we come to different types of protoplast culture, that is liquid cultures in which we are using the suspension media, drop cultures in which we are using protoplast drop by drop, then macro chamber cultures, multiple drop array technique means we will add drop by drops of various enzymes, one enzyme A, one enzyme B, followed by another enzyme, and then finally by the micro droplet culture. It means here the volume of the enzymes and all the solutions will be very less. It means we can say that it will be in the what we can say that it will be in the microliters. These there are basically 5 types, that is liquid culture, drop culture, macro chamber culture, multiple drop array technique, and macro droplet culture. So after discussing about that synthetic seed and protoplast, we will discuss some MCQ so that we can revise. The first question I have asked that encapsulation is done in. I told you that encapsulation is done in which case? Somatic embryos. Why? To develop synthetic seeds. Protoplast culture is done in. I told you protoplast culture is done in what? In the mesophyll tissue of the leaf. Chemicals required for synthetic seed. I told you basically we require two chemicals, that is sodium alginate as well as calcium chloride. So what will happen? There is an ion exchange between the sodium ion and the calcium ion. They will form bed-like structure around the embryos in the liquid media. So coating-like appearance. So that coating-like appearance we will call as artificial seeds. In that method which we use this solution, I told you we use 0.5% what? Mannitol, 2% potassium dextrosulfate, and 13% sorbitol. In that method, 13% mannitol is same. What is the difference? Difference is of 2% cellulase. So, and another another thing is the difference of pH. In the first case, pH is 5.8. In the second case, pH is 5.4. Both the cases we have to treat with the enzyme, then centrifuge. In the second method, that is sequential method, first time enzyme, then centrifuge, second enzyme, another centrifuge. Always protoplast we will obtain in the form of pellet. That pellet we will wash with the sucrose solution or with the sorbitol solution, whereas the impurities will be pipetted out and removed in the form of debris. So this was a brief, we can say that about what we can say, brief introduction about protoplast culture and a very small method about the synthetic seed production. I hope you will be understand by this PPT. So thank you very much.